There comes a moment, quiet, sharp, unforgettable, when you stop in the middle of your own life and realize you've been bleeding for people who wouldn't even give you a bandage. It hits you like a cold wave in the dark, catching your breath, tightening your chest, forcing your eyes open to a truth you've avoided for years. You see the memories you never talk about, the times you stayed when you should have walked away, the nights you cried for someone who slept peacefully, the love you poured into hands that were never capable of holding you. And in that frozen moment, you whisper to yourself, "Why didn't anyone tell me sooner? Why didn't anyone warn me about the cost of being too loyal to the wrong people?" Welcome to Female Code Unlocked, the one place where the things you feel but never admit finally have a voice. And if something inside you is already cracking open, if you feel that familiar sting behind your eyes, breathe. You're safe here. And if you want more truths that finally make your heart make sense, subscribe. This journey is only beginning. The truth is, you've spent years carrying a softness your world treated like weakness. You loved with both hands, even when others held you with fingertips. You forgave too quickly, explained too deeply, stayed too long in places where your soul slowly suffocated. And no one ever pulled you aside and said, "You don't have to earn the love you deserve." No one ever told you that pouring loyalty into the wrong person is a slow, silent self-betrayal. But you're here now, and something inside you is shifting. It starts quietly, like a soft alarm in your chest. A knowing. A recognition. You begin to notice how you dim yourself in rooms that don't deserve your light. How you shrink your voice around people threatened by your truth. How you apologize for things that were never your fault. You begin to realize how often you've traded your peace just to keep someone comfortable. And that awareness? It stings. It hurts in that deep, private way you don't even know how to explain. Because you're not just grieving people, you're grieving the version of yourself who didn't know better. But this is where everything changes. The high-value mindset isn't about arrogance or coldness. It's about coming home to yourself after years of abandoning your own heart. It's the moment you stop asking, "What did I do wrong?" and start asking, "Why did I allow someone to treat me like I'm easy to replace?" You begin to see what you never saw before, that some people didn't love you. They simply loved the way you loved them. They loved your effort, not your essence. They loved your presence, not your person. And the day you stop giving them the version of you that bends, they lose access to the version of you they once took for granted. This realization grows quietly, but powerfully. You stop replying instantly. You stop proving your worth. You stop breaking yourself to keep people who would never break a habit for you. And suddenly, your absence becomes louder than your presence ever did. But here's the part no one prepared you for. Choosing yourself feels like a heartbreak before it feels like a rebirth. There's a heaviness to it, a grief, a mourning for all the times you betrayed your own soul trying to save someone else's. You feel it in your body, in your breath, in the way you suddenly crave silence more than attention. But underneath that ache, there's a quiet strength rising, something ancient, something powerful, something that whispers, "I will never abandon myself again." That's the shift that changes everything, the shift that turns pain into clarity, and clarity into power. There's a moment, right after the ache, right after the grief, when something inside you finally exhales. It doesn't happen loudly, it doesn't happen dramatically, it happens in the smallest, most intimate corners of your mind, when you realize you're no longer willing to negotiate your worth for the sake of being loved. That's when the shift truly begins, not in how you walk or how you talk, but in the way you no longer chase what hurts you. You start noticing things you once ignored, the tone someone uses when they think you'll tolerate anything, the silence they give you when they assume you'll come running, the breadcrumbs they offer because they know you'll turn them into a meal. All the tiny, subtle ways they taught you to put yourself last, and how you agreed without even knowing you were agreeing. But once you wake up, even a little, the illusion shatters. You stop mistaking inconsistency for mystery. You stop confusing bare minimum affection for effort. You stop believing that if you love someone enough, they will magically become the person you always hoped they were. It's a painful clarity. A clarity that makes you go quiet in rooms you used to fill. A clarity that makes you withdraw, not out of fear, but out of understanding. Because once you see someone's true capacity, you stop expecting depth from shallow souls. And that's when you reclaim your power. You start loving differently. Not colder, but wiser. You start giving your energy where it returns, not where it disappears. You start setting boundaries without trembling. You start speaking your truth without apologizing. And the people who once expected your silence, they don't know what to do with this version of you. They feel it before you say a word. That shift in your energy, that newfound calm in your eyes, that unspoken, I won't lose myself for you anymore. Some will try harder because your standards woke something in them. Others will quietly disappear because they were only comfortable with the weakened version of you. Let them. Their absence is not a loss, it's a clearing. And in this clearing, a new woman begins to form. A woman who knows that her heart is not a playground for the emotionally careless. A woman who understands that her time, her attention, her softness, they are gifts, not obligations. A woman who realizes that choosing herself is not selfishness, it's emotional survival. This woman, you, no longer asks, why am I not enough? Because she finally knows that the question was never hers to carry. You don't become high value by changing yourself. You become high value by returning to yourself, by reclaiming the pieces you gave away too easily, by forgiving yourself for what you didn't know, by honoring the voice you've spent years ignoring. And that voice, it's getting louder now, isn't it? The one whispering, I will no longer beg for what I deserve. The one reminding you, I am allowed to walk away. The one insisting, if my absence breaks them more than my presence moved them, they were never for me. This shift, the one no one warned you about, doesn't just change your relationships, it changes your world. Opportunities feel different, attention feels different, love feels different, because suddenly you're not trying to be chosen, you're choosing. Choosing peace over chaos, choosing alignment over attachment, choosing standards over longing, choosing yourself, even when it hurts. And that choice, it's the beginning of a life that finally matches your worth. There's a quiet power that settles into your bones once you stop begging for the bare minimum. It doesn't roar, it doesn't announce itself, it simply arrives, like a long overdue truth finally coming home. And suddenly, the woman who once tolerated inconsistency, excuses, and emotional crumbs becomes a woman who sees through people with unsettling clarity. You start noticing patterns with almost surgical precision, the way someone's words rise, but their actions never follow, the way they show up only when they need something, the way they disappear the moment you need them just a little too much. And just like that, the emotional fog you lived in for years begins to lift. You find yourself rereading old messages, replaying old conversations, rediscovering moments where your heart spoke but you ignored it. And you don't judge yourself. You simply understand. You understand how deeply you wanted to be loved, how hard you tried to make things work, how beautifully you gave your best to someone who only ever gave you their fragments. You see it all now, not with bitterness, but with awakening. This is where the high-value shift becomes irreversible. You no longer fall for potential. You evaluate consistency. You no longer reward effort that only appears when you threaten to leave. You no longer break your own boundaries just to feel momentarily wanted. You stop letting people audition for a place in your life using charm instead of character. And the moment you embody this shift, truly embody it, your entire atmosphere changes. The energy around you becomes heavier, more controlled, more intentional. People sense it even before you speak. They feel it in the way you hold eye contact, the calmness in your tone, the stillness in your decisions. You carry yourself like a woman who knows what she brings and who is no longer willing to hand it out recklessly. It's almost dangerous. The way your silence becomes more powerful than your explanations ever were. Some people will circle back, confused by your new self-respect. Some will test you, hoping you're still soft in the ways that once served them. Some will say you've changed, as if it were a sin to stop tolerating what hurt you. Let them talk. Growth feels like betrayal to those who benefited from your lack of boundaries, because the real betrayal was abandoning yourself to keep the peace. And now you're done abandoning yourself. Now you're done shrinking so others can feel big. Now you're done choosing connection over self-respect. The shift becomes even deeper when you realize something most people never understand. Your value doesn't increase when someone finally recognizes it. Your value increases the moment you stop allowing people who don't recognize it to stay. You feel lighter, freer, but also stronger, as if the weight you once carried has transformed into armor. Not the kind that makes you cold, no, the kind that makes you aware. Aware of what you deserve. Aware of what you will no longer accept. Aware of the woman you are becoming. You look at your past self with compassion, not regret. You understand why she settled, why she tolerated, why she clung to people who were never meant to stay. She wasn't weak, she was hopeful. She wasn't foolish, she was loving. She wasn't lost, she was learning. And now she's evolving. You are evolving. You're stepping into a version of yourself who doesn't just survive emotional chaos, she rises above it. A version who doesn't chase, but attracts. Who doesn't force, but flows. Who doesn't beg, but chooses. And this shift, the one no one warned you about, is the shift that changes everything. Your relationships, your standards, your energy, your life. This is where the story really begins. There's a certain silence that comes when you finally rise into your worth, an elegant, haunting silence that makes people wonder what changed inside you. And the truth is, everything changed. Not all at once, not with some dramatic breakdown, but in small private moments when you realized you were done explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you, done waiting for apologies that were never coming, done trying to be enough for people who didn't even know what enough looked like. It's in that silence that the high-value version of you is born. You start moving differently, not faster, not louder, just clearer. You walk with a sense of self that doesn't need validation to stand upright. You speak with a softness that doesn't beg to be heard. You choose with a confidence that doesn't require permission. And everyone around you feels it, even if they can't describe it. People who once took you for granted feel the shift like a loss. They sense they no longer have access to the unguarded parts of you. They notice that your energy doesn't reach for them anymore. That your voice no longer trembles at their indifference. That your heart, once wide open, now has a lock, a gate, and a guard. And here's the dark psychology behind it. People don't truly value you when you give endlessly. They value you when they realize they can't replace what you gave. A woman who doesn't need validation becomes a woman people fear losing. A woman who stops overgiving becomes a woman people fight to keep. A woman who respects herself becomes a woman who terrifies the emotionally lazy. But this transformation, it's not just about how they see you, it's about how you see you. For the first time, you see the cost of your old patterns. You recognize the way you silenced your needs just to avoid disappointing someone. The way you convinced yourself that scraps were better than solitude. The way you wore loyalty like armor, even when it was weighing you down. You see it all clearly now. And instead of shame, you feel compassion. Because that version of you wasn't stupid. She was starved. Starved for kindness. Starved for honesty. Starved for someone to choose her for once. But now you choose yourself. And the more you choose yourself, the more your world rearranges itself around your worth. You stop being accessible to those who only offered you uncertainty. You stop being forgiving toward those who only gave you apologies with no change. You stop being loyal to people who treated your heart like a temporary convenience. And that's the moment life begins to mirror your standards. You notice new kinds of people entering your orbit. People who speak with intention, not manipulation. Who value your presence without waiting for your absence. Who meet your effort instead of draining it. Your relationships shift, your conversations shift, your future shifts. And the woman you're becoming? She's different. She's calm in a way that confuses those who once controlled her. She's guarded in a way that protects her peace without closing her heart. She's radiant in a way that draws in only those who are aligned with her new frequency. This is the version of you that was waiting on the other side of the pain. Not hardened, just awakened. Not cold, just selective. Not distant, just done bleeding for the unworthy. And now that you've stepped into her, there's no going back. There comes a night, quiet, heavy, unforgettable, where you sit alone with your thoughts and realize you aren't scared of losing people anymore. What terrifies you now is losing yourself again. Folding your boundaries, shrinking your voice, dimming your light just to keep someone close. And as this awareness settles in your chest, something inside you hardens. Not in a bitter way, but in a sacred one. As if your soul finally decided, I will never abandon myself for love again. This is the final stage of the high-value shift, the one no one talks about. You stop romanticizing the people who hurt you. You stop replaying conversations where you tried to prove your worth. You stop daydreaming about the potential you created for them in your mind. You stop giving power to memories that didn't deserve to survive the moment they happened. You start seeing everything through a different lens. Your past, your wounds, your patterns, your hopes, your mistakes, nothing looks the same anymore. Everyone's role becomes clear. You realize the one who walked away did you a favor. You realize the one who played with your emotions was teaching you how to recognize manipulation. You realize the one who stayed just enough to keep you hooked was your initiation into emotional self-respect. You realize the ones who didn't choose you were never meant to hold you. You realize the loss wasn't yours. And here's the truth your old self never understood. When someone shows you your worth by failing to see it, that's not rejection. That's direction. Direction back to yourself, back to your standards, back to the woman you were always meant to be. You begin to notice how beautiful your solitude actually is, how peaceful your life becomes without emotional chaos, how easy breathing feels when you're not constantly trying to prove you deserve love, how soft your heart becomes when it's no longer being scraped by someone else's indifference. There's a quiet confidence growing inside you now, a confidence that doesn't need to be loud to be undeniable, a confidence that says, I choose myself even if it means losing you. I protect my peace even if it means disappointing you. I honor my worth even if it means walking alone for a while. And this is the shift that changes everything. People now approach you differently. They speak more respectfully. They tread more carefully. They sense the boundaries, the strength, the self-respect radiating from you. Not because you demand it, but because your energy won't allow anything less. Your past self would be proud. The one who cried in silence, who begged for clarity, who stayed hopeful in the face of heartbreak. She survived long enough for you to evolve. She carried you through the flames so that this version of you could rise from the ashes. And now you're rising, slowly, softly, powerfully. You're becoming the woman who doesn't chase, the woman who doesn't accept half-love, the woman who doesn't confuse attention with affection, the woman who doesn't negotiate her value. You've become the kind of woman whose silence is stronger than her words ever were, whose absence is felt more deeply than her presence used to be, whose standards intimidate those who once underestimated her. And as you stand in this new version of yourself, everything becomes clear. The shift wasn't about becoming someone new. It was about returning to the woman you were before the world made you forget your worth. It was about unlearning the lies you carried. It was about reclaiming your heart from the hands of those who mistreated it. It was about remembering who the hell you are. This is your new beginning. The beginning where you don't just know your value, you embody it. And the world will feel the difference.